Thank you very much. I just have one question for you, and it relates to the Indy 500. And I'm getting a sense that you're actually quite a modest guy for everything that you've achieved, because when you look at it as a driver, because of the split, as you know about, but some of our listeners may not, where Champ Car and the Indy Racing League were running in parallel, you didn't get in your prime like every single year the chance to race at Indy. Yet you still came away with a third place, best finish. And then after you retired, you coached both, or you were the team leader for both Dan Wheldon and then my favorite IndyCar driver, cheap plug, Alexander Rossi, to win the Indy 500. So first of all, could you give our listeners a sense of what the spectacle of Indy is like, what it's like to win, or what it takes to win, and then any reflections on Dan, who sadly is obviously no longer with us?
Yeah. So, I mean, Indianapolis, especially, here in the States, it's the biggest race ever. It is still the largest single-day sporting event in the world. There's hundreds of thousands of people there. There's millions and millions of more worldwide watching the race. And so, even though it's mostly the same drivers and teams that you're competing with at Long Beach or Laguna Seca or some of these other tracks, you spend 2 weeks there testing, preparing. There's a qualifying process that's your 4 fastest laps, multiple attempts. So the thing about Indy is if you can win that race, you beat everybody on their best day, because everybody puts the most effort into that race, the preparation for the cars, the wind tunnel time that we do. That's everybody's best effort. So when you win that race, I think there's an incredibly high level of satisfaction that comes with it. I was never able to do it as a driver, but I was able to compete in 5 Indianapolis 500s. The first one at the start of my career for AJ Foy, it was my first IndyCar race. And as you mentioned, CART and IndyCar split, or IRL split. And so for many, many years, I raced in the CART Champ Car series, and we didn't go to the Indy 500. So it wasn't until 2003, so almost 10 years, 9 years, I didn't race there before I came back, and I was able to do 4 more at the end of my career, and had some good results, led races, which was great. But the scale of that event, it's just different, and it's the one race where you can win, Road America or Mid Ohio, and you won a race. But if you win the Indy 500, it's the only race where when you walk into a room, they introduce you as Indy 500 champion so-and-so. So it's a life-changing experience, and it's the closest thing we have here to being world champion, right? When you win a F1 world championship, for the rest of your life, you are a world champion, and winning the Indy 500 is like that. So, to have been part of it as a driver and then as a team owner, and have been part of 2, really great wins. And you mentioned with Dan, obviously that's an emotional and important memory for me. I was lucky enough to be teammates with Dan, and we had a great friendship, and that's really what spawned us working together. I know when we ran the Indy 500, it was the second time we'd ever run an IndyCar race. It was the second time we'd run the Indy 500, and the first time I think we were the slowest qualifier in the race. So, why Dan agreed to drive for me, or why he believed enough in our team that we could actually try and win the thing, is beyond me. But he did, and his faith in us, and his faith, he would show up to the track every day and say, I'm here to win. We're going to win this race. And he was so adamant about it. I don't think any of us ever believed it until he just kept telling us we were going to do it. And suddenly, the whole team rallied around him. Nobody wanted to let him down. Nobody wanted to be the one that kept him from winning the Indy 500, because he was just determined and adamant that he was going to win it. And, he carried us on his back through that month, and really that win was magical. And now knowing that, we lost him later on that year in an accident, sometimes you don't understand things or why they happen or how they happen. But I'm not a big spiritualist, but I just feel strongly like that race was destined for him, and we were lucky to kind of ride along with him.
Thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate it. It can't have been easy, but as you say, some things are meant to be, and what a fantastic victory, second victory for him.
The funny thing about Dan is, right, Dan was not shy, and he loved attention. So he would love that I'm talking about it. It does bring a smile to my face too, to know that I can still hear him, kind of his voice in my head going, "Come on, Herta Bees, tell him." He would love that we're talking about it. And we want to share those stories. And we want people to know and remember all the amazing things that Dan did, because he was one of the all-time greats at that place.